Boom, boom, boom. I'll give everybody just a second to stretch their legs and come on in to the show. And away we go. What is up, Broncos country? It is a Wednesday night. It's time for MHI. We are officially out of the bye, week 15. Huge week for your Denver Broncos. And join with me as always. You know him, you love him. Thomas Hall. I am Luke Patterson, and we are MHI. Scott Kennedy on the ones and twos. Tom, the bye week is officially over. It's scrapped. The Colts and the Broncos are both coming off of a week 14 bye in a crucial AFC matchup here in Denver, Colorado. As it sits today, Wednesday, December 11th, how are you feeling about your Denver Broncos?
I'm feeling good, man. I really think they have all but secured the playoff spot. I think everybody else has to pretty much win out. They got to win too, but especially if they beat the Colts this weekend, I don't know how they miss it. They would have to have a massive meltdown. And I know mathematically everybody's still in it, and you never know. But man, they seem to have a lead on the rest of their division that's in the hunt. So. And a possibility to move up in the standings now that the Ravens and the Chargers have the same record, had the tiebreaker, but same record. So we should be feeling pretty good about the playoff chances for the Broncos.
There's a lot of optimism, but I'll be honest, it's weird. It's weird to feel hope in December. It feels weird that the Broncos are climbing up the seeding, at least in the AFC. And you can read about it all you want at milehighhuddle.com. We've got tons of articles up talking about what the Broncos need to do to officially secure a position. 3 things. We'll get into those 3 things in this show. But they're currently sitting at the number 6 seed, as Chad Jensen writes over at milehighhuddle.com. They've got a 2-game lead over the Colts, who would be right on the fringe at number 8 right now. I feel spoiled, Tom. I feel really spoiled. I feel like we've got a franchise quarterback. We've got a good head coach here in Denver right now. You're starting to see the culture shift, and you're starting to see results from that culture shift. We're not just talking about the little wrinkles of that. It's coming to life. And when I could sit in bed with the flu, sick on Monday night, and make fun of the Dallas Cowboys, man, like something has turned here in Broncos country, because I'm no longer in that glass house throwing stones.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because I was seeing people doing mock drafts, and people are like, why are you doing mock drafts already? It's nice that people can just do mock drafts for fun for the Broncos and not because they know they're out of the playoffs and the season's pretty much already over. So it is refreshing, but I mean, this is what fans and analysts, want. They want to see their team getting into the playoffs, being able to extend that season, have something else to talk about the team that you love. And I'm pretty happy with it. They did way better than I anticipated, which is huge. And the future too. It's not like they went all in to try and get one last run in. I mean, they built this team to kind of catapult them forward down the road, but it just seems to be happening a little sooner than expected.
Well, and it seems like people are starting to give the Broncos some respect, and that's something that hasn't happened in years, since 2015, really, because the Broncos haven't earned it. I'll say this. I'm grateful. I'm still on my high from Thanksgiving, right? I'm thankful that the bye week came and went without any significant news, right? That nobody got in trouble. Nobody got injured. Nobody is doing things for all the wrong reasons. This team seems to be locked in. Now, guys like to escape, right? They like to get away, whether they're going out of state, whether they're traveling, what have you. But it's nice to see that the guys all seem to have one mission, and that mission is, let's continue to win. Let's continue to build. And speaking of building, our guy, David Papa Bear, coming in here with a $5 super over on YouTube. What's up, Dave? Happy holidays to you and yours. Good evening, Broncos country. Luke, Tom, and Deacon Scott, 10-7. Let's go, Bo. MHH for life, and Knicks for 6. SEAL Team Knicks. The playoffs begin. Tom, as you know, this is a huge game for the Denver Broncos this week here in Denver, Colorado, as they host the 6-7 Indianapolis Colts. The Colts coming off of the same bye as the Broncos, right? And a victory. Now, the Broncos are on a 3-game winning streak, but the Colts most recently beat the New England Patriots 25-24 in Week 13. They're back with Anthony Richardson. There was somewhat of a Joe Flacco experiment there a little bit. We know what that's like here in Denver.
Right.
Anthony Richardson is coming to Denver, Colorado. What kind of vibes do you get from the Indianapolis Colts? Because I think this is a team that the Broncos can't overlook. They need to respect this team. It's a lot like the Cleveland Browns, where everybody made fun of me for saying don't sleep on the Cleveland Browns. This is their playoff game for all intents and purposes. You saw it with the Cleveland Browns last 2 Mondays ago. It was their Super Bowl. You still have Jerry Jeudy and Shelby Harris popping off about it, and the game's 2 weeks old. So this is a must-win game for the Denver Broncos. If they win, they increase their playoff probability to approximately 89%, but a loss would drop them to 47% odds of making it into the postseason. How do you feel about the Colts coming in right now?
Well, like you said, they're playing for their playoff lives. They know it. They know they have to win out if they want to get in the playoffs for the most part, and they know they got to beat the Broncos. So they're going to come in and definitely go for the win. And you're right, the Broncos can't look at their record and be like, oh, they're not that great, because you never know. But they aren't that great. I mean, they're 6-7. Don't get me wrong, they have a decent team, but this is a game that the Broncos should win at home. And you got a team that in the Colts who, no, not a great defense, not a great offense. They've won some games, but they did beat, the last couple games were close to some kind of, I would call, lesser opponents. So I think it's a game that the Broncos can win, but I don't want them to go out there just thinking they got it in the bag, so to speak.
No, it's a winnable game, and it's a game where you need to get better. You need to improve. We talk about it all the time. Even though this team is on a 3-game winning streak, they are not immune from getting better, and they're not immune from getting beat. I mean, the running game, what's going on there? Can we pick a running back? Can we get any resemblance of productivity from that sort of offense? I don't know. I mean, that bothers me. Levi Wallace in the defensive secondary, that bothers me. And speaking of what bothers me, Stu's pointing it out right here too. Stu, a very generous 1999 Stu McPeak over on YouTube. Thanks, Stu. Happy holidays to you and yours. Are the Broncos ready for the Colts? I'm worried about Riley Moss being out. I love you guys. We love you too, Stu. And I am very worried about Riley Moss being out, Tom. We talked about it before the show kicked off. Riley's the only member of your Denver Broncos on the practice report to not practice today, still dealing with that MCL knee issue. My ears perked up last week when I heard Mike Kliss on the Denver airwaves talking about Riley Moss. He thinks he was going to miss the Colts game. That's all, but not, I don't want to say a certainty, Tom, but I'm not anticipating Riley Moss to suit up against the Indianapolis Colts. What say you?
Yeah, it doesn't look like it. In fact, the rumors are that he may not even make it back for the Chargers on Thursday night. So it's one of those things they're going to try and get him back, and they should wait till he's ready, bring him back when he's ready. Don't try and rush it. I think they're going to probably rethink the whole Levi Wallace deal. Hopefully they have an answer for the opposing wide receiver who's not being guarded by Pat Surtain or Jaquan McMillan, but we'll see. I hope the game is, I hope that turns out a little bit better than the Browns. That's for sure.
Well, maybe they go with an underdog, under the radar type guy like Chris Abrams-Drain. And there's an article up right now. Eric's got an article at milehighhuddle.com. And guys, speaking of underdogs, Underdog is the place to play if you're a sports fan looking to win money while watching sports. Join over 5 million fans who are already playing on Underdog. With their pick'em game, you could win money by making entries with your favorite players. Compete against other players just by selecting higher or lower on 2 or more player stats, and you could win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn every touchdown into a win with Underdog.
With their champs game, you could win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on player stats like passing yards, interceptions, touchdowns, and much more. Like, for example, will Bo Nix have a higher or lower than 220.5 passing yards this week? Every dog deserves a second chance, and with Underdog Rescues, you can get your money back and receive a promo if an early injury causes your entry to lose.
Boom, guys, download the Underdog app today and use code MHuddle to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, download the Underdog app today. Use our code MHuddle to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Every player, every touchdown, just select higher or lower on Underdog.
Must be 18 plus, 19 plus Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text next-step to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY.
Boom, guys, it's week 15. Your Denver Broncos host the 6-7 Indianapolis Colts. And it's a big game here in the Mile High City, man. It's a playoff game for both teams for all intents and purposes. And three things need to happen for the Broncos. Need to solidify their playoff chances. Zach wrote about it over at milehighhuddle.com. Obviously, a win against the Colts Sunday is big, but Broncos country, keep an eye on that Houston Texans Miami Dolphins game. You want the Houston Texans to beat the Dolphins this Sunday. And then obviously the Broncos have a monster game out there in SoFi Stadium next Thursday night, week 16 against the Los Angeles Chargers. These three things happen, the Broncos can pretty much book themselves into a playoff spot. And that's exciting, right? Talk about Christmas coming right around the corner. What do we want for Christmas? How about a postseason playoff berth? That's all I want for Christmas.
Absolutely, man. This is a long time coming for Broncos fans. And it seems like it's going to happen. The way the Broncos have been playing, the way the defense has been playing, the way Bo Nix have been playing, they've gone out and passed the tests that they've needed to pass. And they may not be, a true Super Bowl contender. Now, you never know when you get in the playoffs with a healthy team, you never know what can happen, but they are definitely a playoff contender. And the way they've been playing, it wouldn't be a surprise to see them upset somebody in the playoffs. So I'm embracing it. I'm happy as can be as a Broncos fan, and I'm happy as a Broncos analyst because I hopefully got a little bit more time of games to watch and analyze during the season.
Yeah, we want to keep working here at Mile High Huddle. I mean, regardless of what happens, this is 24/7 Broncos coverage, but it's a lot funner when the Broncos are in the mix. I'm tired of just kicking my feet up in January before we go on the scouting road trip, right? Like, it's time. It's past time. And William coming in here. Thanks for tuning in, Will. I have faith in Abrams Drain. Dude is fast. I just hope he can learn out there on the fly if they start him. Obviously, Will is referencing Broncos rookie cornerback Chris Abrams Drain. Had an opportunity to play in the Cleveland Browns game out of necessity. Sean Payton had some nice things to say about the young man this week. Eric's got an article up at milehighhuddle.com right now. I was impressed with the 10 snap counts or so that Chris Abrams Drain got on in fourth quarter action on Monday Night Football against the Cleveland Browns. It's going to be a lot of learning on the fly, as William likes to say here, but this is where you truly need to learn on your coaches and not just Vance Joseph. Sean Payton, you think Sean Payton can help the defensive secondary a little bit, considering, I don't know, he schemes to beat these guys all day, every day on different opposing teams. I mean, this is where you need to lean on some of that coaching. You need to lean on some of that veteran presence, and the pass rushers, we need to start hitting home. I'm hoping after this bye week, guys continue to get healthy. Obviously, everybody's a little disappointed about Riley Moss. I'm happy that they're not rushing him back, because if the Broncos are truly going to be making a run in this postseason, Tom, they're going to need Riley Moss in Kansas City. They're going to need Riley Moss in Buffalo. And I would rather them take their time with a guy who has proven to be just a shining star for this Broncos defense. He's rising. He's not elite. I'm not going to go there yet. He's not as good, in my opinion, as the Eagles cat, right? His former teammate from Iowa. What's his name? Is it Cooper DeJean or something like that?
Yeah.
In my opinion, that guy's probably a little bit better right now than Riley Moss, but that's all right. Maybe it's just his team too. The Eagles, obviously a good team. You're Vance Joseph. Tom, what do you do with Levi Wallace? Because I saw on social media today, he went out there and he took it in the chin, so to speak, where he's like, look, that was the worst game of my career. I needed to flush it. Do you need to flush Levi Wallace, or do you try to mama cat him? Do you try to bring him back just a little bit, considering here we are Wednesday, December 11th? There's not a lot of options.
Yeah, you need him for depth for sure. Even if it's who knows if they're going to decide to start him or not again, which I don't know. I think that might be a bit of a mistake. Maybe he learned enough and he'll be better against a different type of receiver. But you got to have him out there for depth right now. There's nobody else really with Riley Moss out. There's other unknowns. So at least he's a veteran who can hopefully come in a pinch and not be too awful like he was against Jerry Jeudy. But yeah, they're not going to cut him. I mean, he had a bad game. You got to give him another chance, even though it was very, very embarrassing. So I don't know. But we got Shiloh here coming in saying, good evening, folks. Let's go Broncos. I'm guaranteeing 3 wins in the last 4 weeks. I'm with you, Shiloh. I'm with you. I'm with you on 3 wins. I think they can get there because they got to play the Colts. I think they can beat the Chargers. And, who knows what that final game against the Chiefs is. I think the Bengals are the biggest challenge, but I think the Bengals will be out of the playoff race by the time they meet.
Yeah, Shiloh, when's the last time you seen a team have their punt blocked and they end up winning the game, right? Against the Monday night, but only against the Dallas Cowboys, right? Cincinnati Bengals. Guaranteeing 3 wins, man. Shiloh, I got to ask, what are you seeing that is making you guarantee 3 wins? Because I get nervous, and I get really nervous when Tom jumps on and doubles down with you. It's like, yeah, 3 wins sounds pretty good. Now, notice Tom didn't say guarantee, but now, wins are just so hard to get in this league that I hate to say I'm not overlooking anybody. And I don't know what the last game of the year is going to look like against the Chiefs here in Denver, right? Do the Kansas City Chiefs rest their starters? Do they play a quarter? Who knows what that ultimately looks like? But coming up, Colts to Denver, and then Broncos going to LA, and then obviously the Bengals coming to Denver. It's nice to have some of those road games out of the way. If we're looking at the Broncos schedule, right? You get those out of the way early. You got some of those losses out of the way early. But Anthony Richardson coming in here, man, I think for all intents and purposes, it's almost like facing another rookie quarterback where he doesn't have a ton of snaps under his belt, but there's not a lot of knowns with Anthony Richardson in the NFL right now. He's still writing that NFL script, if you will. Now, you can go back to college and everybody has tendencies, sure. But I hear the Indianapolis Colts coaching staff talking about Bo Nix, and we'll get into that here in just a little bit. But then I look at another dual threat quarterback in Anthony Richardson. I mean, a guy that can use his legs, a guy that can use his arm, a guy that's tough. I think he could present a lot of problems for this Broncos defense. He is turnover prone. So I think coming off of a game where you play Jameis Winston and you do get some turnovers, that's good for a Vance Joseph defense.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I think that you're kind of looking at 2 rookie quarterbacks here. Like you said, Anthony Richardson's got not many games under his belt, but they're playing quite a bit different football. I think Bo Nix is playing considerably better than Anthony Richardson's right now. And I think he also, like you said, turnover prone. I think the Broncos can force him into some bad decisions, and that's going to be the difference, really, is the Broncos are going to be able to force Richardson into a couple bad situations, maybe get a pick or 2. And I think Bo Nix, you've watched him. He's thrown a couple interceptions lately, but he's been pretty dang good with the ball. And, I think that's going to be the difference. And the other difference that I want to point out is third downs. I think the Broncos have gotten so much better on converting third downs. I even wrote an article about Bo Nix and his third down prowess, so to speak, and what that means for his future. But the third downs, it's really has been so much better since early in the season for the Broncos. And that's going to be a key factor too, is just extending those drives. And I don't think the Colts defense is formidable enough to stop what the Broncos typically have been doing against the other lesser defenses.
Yeah, and with a home game, I think you're starting to get some advantage and you're starting to get some momentum. And, there's a big question right now, is the Mile High Magic back here in Denver? I think it's on its way, and you saw some of that in Monday night, but it's going to be a hostile territory and crowd for the Indianapolis Colts to come in. I will be there. I'm very excited, looking forward to it. Yeah, taking my lovely bride over there. She, it's been so long. Drew Lock was the last starting quarterback back in 2020 when the Broncos beat then Oakland Raiders, right? On a
Wow.
Shelby Harris tipped PAT or something like that. And Drew Lock's rapping Young Jeezy or whatever the hell it was. So I'm like, yeah, things have changed. We need to go break the Bo Nix jersey in a little bit. So I'm looking forward to it. But no, it's so critical to have these games at home. And you're exactly right, Tom. The Colts are nobody that the Broncos can sleep on. And speaking of Bo Nix and Anthony Richardson, when you look at them, they actually have comparable stats when you look at college and the NFL, combining them together. Bo Nix college and pro stats sitting at 74. Anthony Richardson sitting at 25. Everybody knows Bo Nix is like the father time in college football, right? Like he's got the long beard and he's played more snaps than anybody else. But no, it's a raw quarterback in Anthony Richardson that Vance Joseph is facing, and that presents both pros and cons for his defense. And the pass rushers have to be licking their chops thinking we're going to go get a guy that loves to take off and run. By that same nature, I hope the linebackers are ready to, sit underneath if needed. Yeah, I'm not saying you need to spy this guy because I don't think that he's necessarily earned that. He's not a Michael Vick or anything like that. But the Broncos need to pay attention to Anthony Richardson. And then when you look at the Colts offense, they have a lot of good players. We'll get into that as well. And their injury report looks a lot different, Tom, as you know, than the Denver Broncos. And they had 2 guys not practice today, but I look at Michael Pittman. I like Michael Pittman a lot as a wide receiver for the Colts. DeForest Buckner on that defensive line. I've liked him since his days with the 49ers, if memory serves.
Yep.
These guys can definitely create problems for the Denver Broncos. If you're Sean Payton and Bo Nix, what do you think the biggest game plan is for this week?
Well, you would hope that they could get their running game going because the Colts can't stop the run. And that's what you would hope, that they would be focused on, getting that running game jump started that's been pretty anemic other than one game all season. So that's what I'm hoping for. And I hope they pay a lot of attention to that in practice. So that's the big key. I mean, let's get that running game going, and then you don't have to rely on your rookie quarterback to go out there and really kind of put the offense on his shoulders like he has had to do with the non-existent running game.
And I don't know what it is about the running game. Maybe we need a little mile high magic in the running game, as Dave's reminding us. There were 6,000 no-shows on Monday Night Football. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, right? I'm not going to try to excuse that away like some other radio shows or podcasts might do, but it is what it is. I do know for a fact that the Broncos sometimes pump up those numbers and sometimes they deflate them a little bit too, right? As every NFL team or pro team would. I had friends and family that were at the Monday night game, and they said the light show was cool at halftime, whatever. But everybody was just super excited because it feels like a familiar feeling is coming back to the city, to the fan base. Now, nobody's planning a parade. Nobody's saying, get ready for February action. But man, it just feels good to see this team take steps in the right direction. And we're talking about the run game, and I see a lot of comments in the chat right now about Tyler Bidet. I don't have any update on Tyler Bidet, Tom. Maybe you do. Maybe you got your ear to the beaten path over there, but the guy was eligible to return from IR around Halloween last October. Scary back injury against the Jets, right? Week 3 or 4, something like that. I don't know what Tyler Bidet's injury history is right now, is how he's doing, his recovery. But I can tell you this, I don't think that Tyler Bidet is going to be running for your Denver Broncos in the backfield amid a playoff push. Obviously, if something happened to Audric Estime, Jaleel McLaughlin, and Javonte Williams, maybe things change a little bit, but I don't have any update on a Tyler Bidet, and I don't see him in the Broncos forecast these last 3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, with his injury, it may not have been as bad as it ended up looking out there. But I mean, I remember back in the day when Al Wilson came back from that neck injury too soon and his career was ruined. So I think they're pretty much taking it easy with him. They don't need Tyler Bidet. I mean, I know that he was more explosive than some of the other backs, but he's not the difference maker that's going to put this running game over the top, in my opinion. I think he might be a little bit better out there at times, but you're not going to rush somebody back like that with a scary injury. So I just don't think you're going to see him this year. I think he's on ice for the rest of the season, just out of precaution.
I do too. And I think it'd be a different story if he was a little bit further down his NFL career, maybe you look at things a little differently. I mean, when the running game is so inconsistent, it's not like I'm saying Sean Payton's looking at him like he's just a 1 or 2 year guy and doesn't have any experience, so screw it. No, that's not the case at all. Look at the youth movement on this whole damn football team. Obviously, if Sean thinks you can play, he's going to put you in there and throw you in there, and you're going to get baptism by fire, so to speak. Tom, let's pivot just a little bit here. I'm talking about the Indianapolis Colts. What do you make of Shane Steichen? Because I don't know too much about this cat. He's been around the NFL for a while. I don't have too much of an opinion on him one way or the other. He obviously landed the Colts gig in 2023 based off of a successful stint with the Philadelphia Eagles as the offensive coordinator from 2021 to 2022. Shane Steichen, what do you make of this guy at the Indianapolis Colts? Just another guy or a potential threat to the Denver Broncos this Sunday?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say. I think, his record kind of speaks for itself. I mean, he doesn't have a true quarterback yet. I mean, they're trying to make something with Anthony Richardson. That guy's a project. There's no doubt about it. Raw tools, great raw tools, but a project. So they're kind of working him into it. So it's kind of hard to judge when you don't have like a real quarterback. But even when, an experienced Flacco went out there, they didn't do that well. So, I mean, I think he's a good coach. I just, at this point, I don't see him being a great coach yet. But, when their back's against the wall, they need a win. They know they need a win. They may be giving it he may be coming up with the best game plan you can imagine. I don't know. So we'll see this Sunday. But, yeah, he just seems like a coach that's good but not great yet.
Well, and listen, maybe Shane Steichen's not the guy we need to be paying attention to. Maybe it's Gus Bradley. That's a name that maybe has a little bit more weight in the NFL that you and I are a little bit more familiar with. Yeah. Obviously, I couldn't stand him when he was with the Raiders that one season in 2021 and what they've done to the Denver Broncos. But former head coach of the Jaguars, if memory serves, for just a little bit, one of those stints. He's been in the league forever. He had some interesting comments on Bo Nix today, and guys are starting to give Bo Nix at least a little bit of respect, a little bit of his flowers, and Gus Bradley on what he expects from Bo Nix.
Guy that can get out of the pocket. He can extend plays. He makes plays on the run. I mean, Bo Nix is a quarterback that runs 4.5. So, here we go again, a guy that can, extend plays. Like I said, it looked like earlier, James, that they used him in the run game, some quarterback runs. They're still on occasion doing that. But it seems now it's more, getting out of the pocket, getting away from the rush, extending the plays that way rather than coordinated run game.
This will be a second straight week not straight week in between the bye, right? A second straight game for the Indianapolis Colts where they're facing a rookie quarterback. They just got done facing Drake May, and Drake May went 24 for 30, 238 yards, a touchdown and a pick. Not a ton of explosive plays from Drake May on the ground, but getting first downs, 5 rushes for 58 yards. Gus Bradley, very familiar with rookie mobile quarterbacks.
Yeah, and it's nice to see that people are evaluating Bo Nix pretty much the way he's been playing. I mean, the coaches realize that he's actually been coming around. He's not the same guy he was in week 1 and week 2. And they know he can use his legs, but the interesting thing is, and he even said it, is they're not dialing up runs for him. They're not.
Why not? Why do you think
because he's getting better as a passer? So why not let him use his arm instead of using his legs? Early in the season, when he was still kind of figuring out the game, he was, not as accurate, and he was throwing some interceptions. Why not get him out there? Let him make some plays with his legs. But he's very comfortable in the pocket. He moves away from the pressure really well and avoids sacks really well, and he doesn't have to take off running. So, why do it? Why risk him out there running and getting injury when he is playing pretty well from the pocket?
David tends to agree with you, saying, hey, it'd be nice if Bo started to become a pocket passer. Yeah, I like both. Let's do both. Let's do whatever you got to do to win the game. I'm with you. I think that he's taking a natural progression as a thrower and as an NFL quarterback. I also think it's a lot of philosophy from Sean Payton of protect yourself. We need you these next 3 weeks a lot. And I don't need you running RPOs and quarterback scrambles for no damn reason. If we need them and the game is on the line, let's do it. If we need the QB sneak, let's do it. But you want to try to keep this team that has been relatively healthy, knock on some wood, Tom. I mean, we talk about it week in and week out. The Denver Broncos have had very good fortune. I think good luck comes into a lot with it, Tom. I don't know what I'm not superstitious. I'm kind of stitious. And, obviously resources, the Walton Penner ownership group, Sean Payton, they have selected men and women from all over the world to come to Denver, Colorado to keep their players healthy. And so far they're doing that. And we have to continue to trust. Gus Bradley, I have a lot of respect for Gus Bradley. Shane Steichen still somewhat of an unknown, especially as an offensive coordinator. Now obviously head coach with the Colts the last 2 years. But Gus Bradley trying to game plan for Bo Nix. How would you game plan for Bo Nix? Because I got to be honest, my typical game plan for any rookie quarterback, what? Pressure. You want to give him pressure. Let's dial up those blitzes. Let's go after him. Bo Nix is a little different. And what do I mean by that? I think that his brain and his intellect set him apart from a lot of other rookie quarterbacks that we are seeing play the game and that we have seen play the game. Yeah. It doesn't make me want to go immediately to Peyton Manning, right? Because he's one of the greatest of all time. But I think Bo's internal processor, that's what is ultimately going to set him head and shoulders, no pun intended, above the rest.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and the play or the offense of Sean Payton is typically designed to get the ball out quick. So they kind of meld together pretty well, which is why I think Bo Nix is playing better than people expected right away, is because he fits that offense pretty well. So that helps. I mean, you've seen him make mistakes, and he's probably gonna make more mistakes as he goes along the next few games, but hopefully they're minimal and they're not gonna really impact their ability to win. I mean, I love the fact that he's not lost a fumble. I'm gonna knock on wood again, right? The only fumble he's had is an exchange that was a bobbled exchange from center, but other than that, he hasn't even fumbled. So he's been very careful with the ball.
And that was in Kansas City, if memory serves, with Luke Wattenberg, right?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Bobbled fumble,
it.
And he grabbed it. And then a play later, Luke Wattenberg was a legal man downfield. I still remember yelling about it. Not that I'm still pissed off about it or anything. I still think what if, and everybody can kill me and eat me up, man. I still think what if you beat the Chiefs that week before? What kind of conversation are we having today? I think it's a little bit different and a little bit more exciting, to be honest, but it's there. And I think if you're Gus Bradley, you got to kind of live and die by your sword, and you have to pick your poison. I don't see a ton of elite playmakers when I look at the Indianapolis Colts defense outside of DeForest Buckner and a few other cats that you'll see in my Keys to Victory coming out this Friday. But Bo can still get got, right? As Marshawn Lynch liked to say, like, I'm going to get mine. Everybody gets got, but I'm going to get mine before I do. And I think about you all the time when there's a rookie Bo throw, and that's what I call it, rookie Bo throws, and he gets away with a few, right? He gets away with a few things, and coulda, shoulda, woulda. It doesn't really matter. I think Bo is also playing with a new level of confidence. Please, for the love of God, nobody ask him, Sean Payton or Bo Nix, about confidence. I'm so sick of hearing that question asked every single week, but you're seeing it. Right? Like, we don't need to ask the question because you're actually seeing it on the field. I think you see a very mature rookie quarterback out here. The way he's been connecting with his teammates, I think, is very interesting. The way he shies away from the spotlight, I really like. I think it's just all about that work for Bo Nix. Let's pivot a little bit and talk about the Broncos defense, Tom. I mean, Nick Bonito, right, is just on an absolute tear. Number 2 and behind what, Trey Hendrickson, man, that guy's an absolute beast for the Cincinnati Bengals, who continue to stack up sacks on the leaderboard the other night against the Cowboys. What kind of game are you expecting from the Broncos pass rushers? Jonathan Cooper, Nick Bonito, they're going to have their opportunities to tee off, but they also need to show some discipline in setting that edge and starting to contain. You have a really healthy interior defensive line with the Jonathan Franklin Myers, Zach Allen, who I know is still coming off the heel, but he's playing and he's playing quite well. What do you do with these Broncos pass rushers?
Well, I mean, the thing that we talked about earlier is the ability that Anthony Richardson has with his legs. So you don't want to get wild. you know, you want to get after him, you want to put pressure on him, you want to get him to the ground, but you don't want to get so pass rush happy that you kind of forget about keeping him
deep
contained in the pocket. Yeah. So they definitely have to pay attention to that. But I'll tell you, I would rather have Anthony Richardson taking off running and getting a first down here and there than him sitting back there without any pressure and being able to get rid of the ball and you know, get chunk plays, because he's got a heck of an arm and he can throw it pretty far. So I don't mind him getting a couple runs in here and there, but the pass rushers just need to be more disciplined, but they still got to get after him.
Yeah, and Anthony Richardson is he's very turnover prone, as Chad Jensen pointed out in one of his articles over at MileHighHuddle.com. As talented as he is, he has a 7 to 9 touchdown interception ratio. But those fumbles, man. I mean, he's fumbled the ball 9 times, losing 3 of them. So he's given Indianapolis 11 total touchdowns, 12 total turnovers. And that's something that, you know, Vance Joseph has to be keying in on. Sean Payton, like, yo, strip sack this guy. Yo, get a pick on this guy. Yo, Jonathan Franklin Myers, as Chase is pointing out here, get after him on the D line. And Jonathan Franklin Myers has been one of the most underrated acquisitions from last offseason. Chase, you are 100% right. I couldn't have been more wrong on my lack of assessment. It's not like when John Franklin Myers came over, I'm like, oh my God, this guy sucks. He was a Jet. I can't stand it. No, I didn't know anything really about him. And shame on me, because he is one of the most productive interior defensive linemen that we're seeing right now for his position. I think that Jonathan Franklin Myers, even though he's a defensive end, I still like to think of him as an interior defensive lineman, just because he commands that presence when these type of DNs can not only get after the passer, but they can plug those run holes. That's something we haven't seen from Vance Joseph's defense, Tom. And I think one of the biggest reasons that VJ is getting over and he's starting to become a head coaching candidate, and teams are probably going to be calling, if they haven't called already, on VJ, is because he's showing he can adapt. He's showing he can adjust. It starts with stopping the run.
Yeah, I'm with you on Franklin Myers. I just thought it was an okay trade. I didn't think it was something special. I think he's playing better than he ever played with the Jets, playing here with the Broncos, in my opinion. I think he's was a great pickup to Chase's point. Very underrated. I think Malcolm Roach is another one who was a spot player that has come in here and he's really played well. So I think I think everybody on the defensive line has elevated their game tremendously from the year prior, including Zach Allen, including DJ Jones. I think that whole line, just everybody on that line has just stepped up. Even the ones that were playing for Vance Joseph last year, Zach Allen didn't have that great of a year. I don't think DJ Jones did either, but this year they are. And you could attribute it to those 2 pickups helping the rest of the line.
Under the radar picks that we didn't see having a ton of impact, and it's almost been the backbone of this team. When you start thinking about it, when you start looking at what's been the difference between this year and last year, I think a lot of it's been mentality, a lot of it's been culture, but as the team goes, as the big uglies go. And right now, the big uglies are rocking and rolling. Phil, thank you so much for all your support, man. You've been a huge supporter of this show. Appreciate all those Facebook stars. I know Phil's excited for the Denver Broncos to take on the Indianapolis Colts here in Week 15. Tom, in my lifetime, the Broncos haven't had a ton of success against the Colts. I don't know what it is, man. It's just been one of those deals where I feel like the Colts have come into Denver. They've had the Broncos number. When Broncos have gone to Indy, right, the house that Peyton built can never really get over there, even with other quarterbacks too. What is it about the damn Indianapolis Colts and the Denver Broncos that just gives me worries? It gives me nightmares, right? I already got the flu. I'm already sick. I'm getting cold sweats just thinking of the history between these teams. And, I don't know what it is. It's kind of like the Broncos and the Browns, if we're being honest, right? Yeah. The Broncos usually get over on the Browns in historic fashion. Not anything as historic with the Colts, and obviously being booted from the playoff game here in Denver, in 2013 was pretty brutal. 2014, maybe.
2014, yeah.
What is it about the damn Colts, Tom?
It must be a little bit of karma coming back for stealing away John Elway back when they were still a Baltimore Colts, maybe.
Touché.
I don't know. Yeah, but that's funny because if you remember the Colts Andrew Luck gave up his spleen to beat the Broncos that year, and I think it was 2015 or whatever. So
Yeah.
they go all out to beat the Broncos, including giving up a spleen. So it's interesting. It's funny because there's just certain teams that, for some reason, historically, they've had a tougher time with. The Dolphins is another one. They just have a tough time with the Dolphins. I don't know why, but I don't think it's the same this year. I think the Colts are an okay team. I don't think they're a really good team. I think the Broncos are becoming a good team, and I think they're better all around. So being at home, I just don't think that the Colts have it in them to beat the Broncos. Now, Evan, any given Sunday, as we always say, you never know. But when you look at this game on paper, you look at this game, you look at the defenses versus the offense, both sides, it's in the special teams. You really should feel confident the Broncos can win at home and should win fairly convincingly, even though the Colts are desperate.
Trying to avoid the trap game. And look, the Broncos, they know how to win right now, right? They're getting used to learning how to win. The Colts, can you say that? I don't know. They can certainly ruin your day. The coaching staff, I'd be honest, if Gus Bradley was the head coach of the Colts, I'd be a little bit more intimidated of him, but he's not. It's Shane Steichen, and it is what it is. But Sean Payton, Vance Joseph, tons of experience. You should be able to command this game. And David Yonkin coming in here with a very good question, 199 over on YouTube. Will Anthony Richardson tap out in the Mile High City? Tom, it was one of the most bizarre things anyone's ever seen in the NFL. I'm just going to say that. I'm going to speak for everybody. Around Halloween or so, he was tired in a game and tapped his helmet like a wide receiver and said, I need to come out. Joe Flacco came in. Flacco ended up getting some starts after that. What do you make of the Anthony Richardson tap out story from Halloween to him regaining his starting position here in December?
It was odd just because most players don't want to come out of the game. It's kind of against their nature, but they get taken out to be refreshed. But it's even more odd to see a quarterback do it. Now, I know he was running a lot that game. I mean, he was definitely running quite a bit. So I guess I could see him getting a little tired, but it was strange to see that happen from your starting quarterback. I've never seen it before. Only because they've been injured. I've never seen it because they got a little too tired.
Happened in the third quarter of the Colts Week 8 game against the Houston Texans. Richardson took himself out of the game on a 3rd and goal following a play where he had scrambled around for a bit. Yeah, that was against the Houston Texans, and D'Amico Ryan certainly knows how to get a defense humming. And I see where David's head's at here. Like, hey, man, we're talking about Jonathan Cooper, Nick Bonito, John Franklin Myers, Zach Allen getting after it. Let's not forget Cody Barton has been pretty successful as in some rushes and some dropbacks with picks as well. I mean, man, if you thought the Houston Texans defense was going to keep Anthony Richardson running, I hope he's been training with one of those damn elevation machines or whatever it is that we heard the Browns, right, training with. Yeah. And I don't know. I think he learned his lesson. I think it was a humbling moment. I don't know if it didn't look like he was hurt. I've never seen it. I can't believe we're still talking about it, but it's a huge story, right? Because it talks about toughness. It talks about conditioning. It talks about knowing the moments. And could you ever imagine Bo doing that?
No,
I mean, really
not.
Bo Nix saying, Sean, I need a breather. Are you freaking kidding me? You thought Russell Wilson got screamed at by Sean Payton. Could you imagine Sean going after Bo for asking to get subbed out? And we've got Anthony Richardson on some of those comments.
I don't hear the sound, Scott.
No sound on Anthony. That's all right. We'll get it back.
Yeah.
And look, I'll say this. I've followed the story a little bit, and Anthony Richardson, he obviously got screamed at and yelled at by his coaching staff, and he was seen the next week, after he got benched, slapping everybody's hands, first player on, last player to leave. Do I think it was a sin that he can't come back from? No. Not when you're a first-round quarterback and you've got the team by the short hairs, so to speak. It's just, I don't know. It's a really, really bad look for your franchise. It's not indicative of where you want your franchise to go, the trajectory of it. Jim Irsay and his level of involvement with the Colts, I don't know. It's been somewhat of a up and down ride even since Peyton left, really since Andrew Luck retired, if we're being honest. And you mentioned Andrew Luck. Sometimes I forget Andrew Luck played for the Colts, if I'm being honest with you, Tom, because it was just such, his story was bizarre as well. I mean, that's the Colts for you, right? The first round quarterbacks, and you get hit so much, they make you retire.
Yeah.
And did I see it correctly? Anthony Richardson. Andrew Luck is now working with Stanford in some capacity.
Yeah, he's like the GM or something at Stanford. So yeah, the Baltimore Colts have an interesting history. I mean, a storied history.
Baltimore Colts.
Yeah,
Whoa.
the Baltimore Colts. They have a storied history, and then they moved to Indianapolis, and then they had a really tough time trying to figure out how to win. They got Peyton, and then they got Andrew Luck, but ultimately they never really found success once under Peyton, and it hadn't been since John Unitas really took him to the championship. So it's been an interesting ride for the Colts. Now, I mean, I think they could get it figured out. I think Anthony Richardson can get it figured out. I won't say that he's done for because of that one tap out. I think he has the tools to do it. So maybe they will start to get this figured out with him. I just don't think that they haven't figured out quite yet. That's why I'm a little bit more confident in the Broncos' ability to win at home than I should be probably, but I just don't think they haven't figured out yet. So
I know we save our picks for Friday for the roundtable, but I'm just kind of curious, like, where Broncos country's at, because some folks are nervous about this, and some are confident, and I'm kind of a healthy mix of both right now. Tom, do you think it's going to be a close game, or do you think it's going to be a blowout? I didn't see the Browns game being as close as it was, and then eventually Denver outlasted and made their own luck, so to speak, and going after Jameis Winston. I mean, I don't know that this would be a field goal type of game, but anything can happen, right?
Yeah, well, and the Colts have been playing their teams pretty close. I mean,
really close,
very close wins. So it could come down to the special teams, which I think the Broncos have a solid special teams game. So it could come down to a few field goals that decide it. I hope it doesn't. I don't want it to be that close. I just want the Broncos to answer this bell, right? Like this is that next test that I've been talking about that they've been passing. And this is the one where if they win this, they kind of write their own ticket to get into the playoffs, and we'll see how they respond. So I hope they come out and respond really well and just go out there and kind of have a clean, not an easy victory, but an easy enough victory that it's not one of those sweaty palms staring at the TV, hoping that the kick isn't blocked or whatever.
No, I don't need any more of that in my life, Tom. Not at all. The Broncos, one of my kind of segment of our show is the biggest offensive weapon for me for the Indianapolis Colts, and it's running back Jonathan Taylor, who can also be used in the pass catching game as well. Now, this is a guy who's been dealing with some ups and downs this season, some inconsistencies, some injuries. 10 games, he's rushed 186 times for 804 yards and 5 touchdowns. He can be a viable check down option if he needs to be for Anthony Richardson, but the problem is Anthony Richardson doesn't like to check down. So that's where some of the turnovers start to come. Jonathan Taylor, for as good as he is, and there were even rumblings. I remember there were rumblings at a time from one of my guys here in Denver saying that, maybe the Broncos were interested in a Jonathan Taylor before he got re-upped and everything with Indy. He fumbles the ball as well. He has 2 fumbles in back-to-back games against New England and the Lions. Jonathan Taylor, what do you expect Vance Joseph to do against this guy? Because they're going to try to get him in space. They're going to test the Broncos defense running between the tackles, but this is a 5'10", 226-pound back that can move in Jonathan Taylor.
Well, I think the Broncos can be run against sometimes, right? Like, so I think they'll probably be able to get some decent yardage as long as it's not Jonathan Taylor beating you. If he has a solid game, fine. Just don't let him run wild. That's what I think Vance Joseph is going to try and do. And it seems like that's kind of his plan. He doesn't care as much about being like the run stuffing defense. He lets some running backs get some runs and stuff, but it's not so much that it just absolutely kills you all the time.
Don't break.
Yeah, I'm expecting a similar game. I mean, he's a solid running back. He'll get some yards. as long as he just doesn't take it over and, run for 220 and the Broncos get run out of Mile High,
No, yeah, that would be an absolute disgrace. He's went over the 100-yard mark 4 times this season. He almost did it against the New England Patriots with 96 yards. But hey, Broncos running backs, we're still waiting to have a 100-yard rusher, right? That has yet to happen. 30 straight games, if memory serves, from Monday Night Football, the telecast reminder, if you will. Yeah, Jonathan Taylor can get after it, man. I think his best game this season rushing wise, let's see here, 21 attempts for 114 yards. He did not score that game. But yeah, you'd like to keep the clock ticking if you could, if you're Denver. And I'm not going to say you plan on your opponent running the ball so you can keep the clock ticking, but they're going to lean on Jonathan Taylor, especially as Anthony Richardson's going to be running for his life. If Anthony Richardson is huffing and puffing and out of breath, expect the ball to go to Jonathan Taylor. That's absolutely a win for the Broncos defense. And he's a tricky runner. He's not, Derrick Henry. He's his own type of back. I don't know. Who would you compare Jonathan Taylor to? He's an interesting kind of guy. I don't put him as an elite running back in the league, but on the threshold, usually year in and year out. And I know fantasy football players and GMs, I've got him on my team, right? He could be a great player and he could be a horrible player. Yeah, but he's interesting. He's kind of his own card. There's not a lot of guys like him. If I was Shane Steichen, and an offensive whiz, I don't know why they don't use this guy in the passing game. I really don't, Tom. He can catch the ball when the running game's not working for you. Hot damn. Try to get something going. Just get the ball in their hands. We're seeing Sean do it with Jaleel, right? Like, oh, you can't run through the tackles? Let's try to do a halfback swing. Let's do a Texas route with Javonte. Like, I get it, but I would hate to see a breakout game as a receiver from Jonathan Taylor against the Broncos.
Yeah, I think he was an elite back. I think he had some great seasons, and maybe he's a little bit banged up and not quite as himself this year. I'm not sure. I don't know what the deal is. But yeah, there for a couple of years, he was one of the better backs in the league. He was flat out getting some yards. But not quite as much this season. It may be a lot to do with their offense just isn't as good because their center Ryan Kelly, who I think he was a few-time Pro Bowler, he's been out for quite a while, so they're missing some pieces. So, and I know that I think they brought Ryan Kelly back, designated him to return, but I don't know if he's going to be on the field on Sunday. So that might have a little bit to do with it. Maybe he's just he ran so much that he's kind of worn out a little bit this year. I don't know, but he can flat out get yards when he's on for sure. So we'll see if the Broncos can contain him enough. And that's all they really need to do. They need to contain him enough to make Anthony Richardson drop back and throw some balls.
Yeah, I think Mo Alley Cox and Kylan Granson, the tight ends for the Colts, can definitely get some utilization as well against the Broncos linebackers right now, who are playing well, and Cody Barton and Justin Sternad. Quentin Nelson's one of my favorite players. Absolutely one of my favorite players. I'm going to put you in a sticky spot. Ready for this? Okay.
Yeah.
You're in a bar and you're enjoying a cold beverage all on your own. And all of a sudden, a fight breaks out between Quentin Nelson and Quinn Miners.
Oh,
who do you put your money on?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I don't know. I would have to put it on Miners just because I'm a Broncos guy.
Yeah, I'd have to put it on the insurance claim because that bar is getting tore up. No, it's interesting, man, when you look at the guards, right? Obviously, Quentin Nelson, one of my favorite. I know Quinn Miners. Who doesn't like Quinn Miners? The big boys that are definitely going to try to impose their will. And you see a Broncos defensive line that's going to have a decent test in facing Quentin Nelson. And I hear people say, Luke, it's just one guy. What are you talking about? Yeah, Dalton Rucker, I always miss his name up, right guard for the Colts. Not one of the better players. The center, obviously, as you mentioned, there's some issues there with injury history and who's going to play and who's not. But it's all about attitude, really, when it comes from the O-line and the D-line for either team. And I think the Colts are struggling to find their way with consistency. They've got a couple dogs, but you need more than a couple, right? Remember when Quinn Miners was just the gem on the offensive line, and that was it. Ben Powers has started to play particularly well. Yeah. Garrett Bowles is playing so well. People are asking, what do we do with this guy? Do we extend him? He's a little long in the tooth. How could you let him walk away? Mike McGlinchey's playing better. I could still get after him and get on my soapbox about Mike McGlinchey. But look at how many Broncos D linemen we're talking about too. It's Jonathan Franklin Myers, it's Zach Allen, it's DJ Jones, it's Malcolm Roach. When you've got the culture change happening and you've got competition, and I think that's what you see between these guys. I think the perfect example of that is the pass rushers right now. You're telling me, you can't tell me that Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper aren't competitive with each other. Not for a bit. Nick Bonito is getting ready to lock down a huge bag this next offseason as a pass rusher. Baron Browning obviously already got his, a little bit of a lesser pass rusher, I give you that, than Nick Bonito. But competition ultimately breeds success. And I think that's what you're seeing with the Denver Broncos here in week 15 against the Colts.
Yeah, and the thing about it too is the Broncos are healthy. They're not have to rely on a lot of depth, which, you know, for the Broncos, that's key because I think their depth is lacking. I think they got some good players that start, but their depth is a little lacking. So this health that they're seeing right now is a huge advantage, especially if you got a Colts team who's already banged up and a little bit even more banged up. They're going to have to rely on their depth. It's a much bigger advantage than people give it credit for. So I haven't seen the full depth chart. I don't know what it's going to look like, our injury chart that for the Colts, but I know they got some folks banged up, and I know they have had some on IR that were banged up. I guess maybe I'm a little too confident. I don't know, but it feels like the Broncos should be able to go out and really take it to the Colts. And I think if they can figure out if they have more rushing yards than the Colts, they're going to win in pretty easy fashion.
Yeah, you got Broncos country debating what the Colts pass rush looks like, and not much of one when you look on paper. But again, paper tigers don't win ball games. And Kwity Paye is going to be there on the left side. Same with DeForest Buckner. And keep in mind, the Colts run a base 4-3. So it's going to be a lot of beef all on that one side, right? So you're going to have to watch out for that if you're the Broncos. Now, the Colts know the Broncos aren't running the ball particularly well, and they're going to try to load up on that. What do I mean? They're going to go after Bo, and they're going to drop back a little bit, and they're going to test Bo, and they're going to try to see. I wouldn't be shocked to see tons of zone coverage out there against the Denver Broncos, right? Like, all right, rookie, let's see how good you are. You think you're rookie of the year? Bring it. And I would absolutely love that if Gus Bradley did that. I don't know that that's his style. I think he's going to try to dial up some pressure, but this is a beatable Colts team. Absolutely. Julian Blackmon's a good enough safety in my mind, but looking over at the corners, it's nothing that I see and I'm absolutely terrified of. Now, I'm sure other opposing teams said that about Jaquan McMillian too, right? Who just is coming out of I don't want to say nowhere, because Broncos country knew about this young cat, this nickelback, last year when he really started to come on against the Houston Texans, became a big part of the Broncos 5-game winning streak. Some of these lesser known players are truly the backbone of this Broncos team. And I know we love talking about Courtland Sutton, right? And he loves making me crow specifically on this show. But Devon Vele, man, he has been huge for the development of this offense, and he's developing with Bo Nix. I think Courtland, can I say Courtland's developing with Bo? Can we say we're seeing the best version of Courtland Sutton right now? I get that he's older, but good God, it took years to get Bo Nix here, and you're finally seeing a happy, enthusiastic, healthy, and willing Courtland Sutton.
Yeah, absolutely. Courtland Sutton over the last several games has been playing one of his best since before his injury, for sure. So I also think that you're going to see some of the other guys too step up at some point. You're going to see Bo Nix and Troy Franklin, hit those passes a little bit more coming up. I mean, it's going to happen. I think they're going to get better, better as the season goes on. You're going to see a little bit more Marvin Mims too. I think that you're going to see a little bit more out of the passing game as the season goes along. But what they really need is to see more out of the running game. I really hope that they decide on going with Audric Esime this game, just to see if he can carry the load. Just hand it off to him, see if he can carry the load, and then see if that is going to be kind of your catalyst into the playoffs with a running back who's learning how to really run in the NFL, carry the load, because obviously Javonte Williams just isn't that guy anymore. He's just not. And I love the guy, man. He was one of my favorites, but he's just not the guy that they need to carry the load. It's just not happening. So I hope they feed Estimate.
Why not? Why do you think that is? Because I have troubles with that too, Tom. Like, I don't want to just, and I know you don't. You like Javonte too. We all like Javonte, but like, it just did some of the fire die down a little? Is it injury related? Is it doesn't know his future or his place on the team? I mean, Dylan wrote a really good article up on milehighhuddle.com on why the Broncos need to phase him out in favor of Audric Estime. And Dylan, God bless him, is a very patient man. I was writing this article here in week 5, and then Javonte, must have heard about it and had a 2-touchdown performance against the Saints. We're still to get over 100 yards rushing, but that's any Broncos running back. So as much as I want to sit here and rail on Javonte, no Broncos running back has really done particularly well. And you can't dog Audric Estime. He's a rookie, right? Baby bust, little Jerome Bettis, whatever we want to call him. This goes on Sean. So, Tom, I ask you this. Is it too late to start a run game in week 15? Is it too late to eclipse 100 yards for the next 3 games for Broncos rushers? You want to keep your quarterback healthy? You want to keep your O-line happy? Then run the damn ball.
Yeah. No, I don't think it's too late. And I do think it's too late for Javonte Williams. But, I'll tell you the thing about Javonte, people don't realize the extent of his injury. It wasn't just an ACL tear. It was a major injury. And there wasn't nerve damage, which is why he came back. But the study that I read about players returning to their form after an injury that Javonte had, it was like 14% even got, back to where they were prior to the injury. So it's to be expected that he's not his old self. And so at some point you just have to say, you know what, we're going to try something else. Let's see if this rookie can carry the load. I think they should commit to it early on in this game and see if they can make what every other team has done to the Colts so far this year and run down their throat. They've got to do it. And if they can't do it against the Colts, I don't think it's going to happen for the playoffs.
You got to get a get-right run game somewhere. I don't care if it's week 15, week 16, 17, 18. I mean, you want to get some sort of momentum if you're going to make a postseason run. Guys, we are about out of time here on MHI tonight. I want everybody to head on over to milehighhuddle.com. Tom's got an article up right now answering the question, is Bo Nix really a franchise quarterback? You might be really interested to find out the reasons why or why not. Tom makes the argument for one, Bo Nix. You can read about it over at milehighhuddle.com. Really interesting metrics. Great stuff, Tom. Scott, really appreciate you, man. Broncos country, thank you for rocking with us here on your Wednesday night. Do us a favor. Head on over to milehighhuddle.com. Check out all of our articles. Zach's got a piece that literally just published minutes ago foreshadowing Riley Moss's availability this Sunday against the Indianapolis Colts. The Mile High Huddle boys should be back tomorrow on these very airwaves. Away and away we go, man. Week 15. I can't believe that we're in the middle of December. Christmas is around the corner, and the Broncos are in AFC postseason contention.
Yep. 2 wins. They have to get 2 wins, I think. I think 10 wins gets you in the postseason. I actually think they're going to be one better than 10. Even though I predicted them to be under 500, I think they're going to finish the season with 11 wins.
Wow.
And they're going to walk into the playoffs, with everything kind of clicking.
You want to be clicking, and you want to be clicking right now. Speaking of clicking, guys, give us the subscribe button on this pod wherever you get it. We really, really appreciate it. If you'd like to follow Scott, that's at Scout Kennedy over on X. If you'd like to reach out to Tom, that's at Thomas Hall NFL. Yours truly at Luke Patterson LP. I will be there this Sunday. If you see me, come say hello. Let's talk all kinds of crap to the Indianapolis Colts fans that are there, and let's get these Broncos a win. Broncos country into week 15. This is the way.
This is the way.